My ex texted that he misses me. I'm meeting him tonight to see what he wants, she announced like I should be fine with it. Find out, I said. While she was at dinner with him, I was packing her things. She came back at midnight smelling like his cologne. Her suitcases were by the door. She asked what I was doing. I said, helping you move closer to what you want. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I think the worst part wasn't the cheating itself. It was the absolute, unadulterated disrespect of how she did it. It was the casual cruelty of looking me in the eye and telling me I didn't matter without actually using those words. To understand why I reacted the way I did, why I didn't scream, cry, or beg, you have to understand the dynamic between Maya and me. I was the safe guy. I was the guy with the 401k, the steady engineering job, the emotional regulation, and the patience of a saint. Maya was chaotic. She was vibrant, beautiful, and magnetic, but she was a storm. When we met 3 years ago, she was recovering from a string of toxic relationships. She told me she was tired of the games. She said she wanted peace. I gave her peace. I paid off her credit card debt so she could start fresh. I supported her while she changed careers twice. I listened to her vent for hours about her narcissistic friends and her family drama. I was the rock. I was the foundation. But the thing about being a rock is that people eventually start to think you're just part of the scenery. You get stepped on. The shadow hanging over our entire relationship was Leo. Leo was the ex, the one before me, the great love who was also, according to Maya, a sociopath. She told me horror stories about him, how he manipulated her, how he cheated, how he made her feel small. Early in our relationship, I held her while she cried about the trauma he caused. I hated the guy. I wanted to protect her from ever feeling that way again. But over the last 6 months, the way she talked about him changed. It went from he destroyed me to we had such an intense connection. She started bringing him up in casual conversation. Oh, Leo loved this band. Leo used to take me to this restaurant. I set boundaries. I told her I didn't want to hear about the guy who abused her. She called me insecure. She said I was threatened by her past. She said I was controlling for not wanting to hear about the man she slept with for 2 years. I let it slide. That was my mistake. I thought if I just loved her enough, if I was stable enough, she'd realize she was better off here. I didn't realize that for some people, peace is boring. Some people are addicted to the adrenaline of the crash. It all came to a head on a Tuesday. I came home from work around 6 p.m. Usually, Maya would be on the couch in sweatpants, scrolling through TikTok or waiting for me to decide on dinner. But when I walked in, the apartment smelled different. Not like dinner cooking, but like a Sephora counter. Maya was in the bathroom, finishing her makeup. And not her going to work makeup. This was full glam. Smoky eye, contour, the works. She walked out into the living room wearing a black slip dress, a dress I had bought her for our anniversary dinner 2 months ago. She looked stunning. And she knew it. You look nice, I said, putting my keys in the bowl, feeling a pit form in my stomach. Are we going out? She didn't look at me. She was busy adjusting an earring in the hallway mirror. No, I'm going out. I paused. Okay, with the girls? She turned around then, and the look on her face was chilling. It wasn't guilt. It was defiance. It was a look that said she had already justified this in her head, and if I had a problem with it, I was the villain. Leo texted me this afternoon, she said. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. The air left the room. Leo? Why is he texting you? He's going through a lot right now, she said, grabbing her clutch. He broke up with that girl he was seeing. He sounded really dark, OP. He said he misses me. He said I'm the only one who ever really understood him. I stared at her, trying to process the absurdity of what I was hearing. And I'm meeting him for dinner, she announced. Just like that. Like she was telling me she was going to pick up milk. I need to see what he wants. I need to make sure he's okay. I think he really needs closure. I stood there, still in my work clothes, feeling like I'd been slapped. You're going on a date with your ex-boyfriend because he texted you that he misses you? It is not a date, she snapped, rolling her eyes. God, why do you have to make everything so dirty? We're just talking. He's in a crisis. I'm being a good person. You wouldn't understand because you don't have that kind of empathy. Empathy. I laughed, a short, dry sound. Maya, look at you. You're wearing the dress I bought you. You spent an hour on your hair. You aren't going to a crisis intervention. You're dressing up to impress a guy you swore destroyed your life. She stiffened. I dress up for myself. Stop making this about you. This is about human connection. This is about disrespect, I said, my voice dropping an octave. I didn't yell. I felt a strange calm washing over me, a cold clarity that I hadn't felt in 3 years. If you walk out that door to meet him, you are prioritizing his feelings over our relationship. You are telling me, right now, that his validation means more to you than my respect. She scoffed, checking her reflection one last time. She sprayed perfume on her neck, my favorite perfume. You're being dramatic. You're so insecure it's pathetic, honestly. I'm going to dinner. I'll be back later. Don't wait up. She walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. The sound was like a countdown. My eye said. She stopped, hand on the doorknob, looking back over her shoulder with an annoyed sigh. What? If you leave to meet him, I said, looking her dead in the eyes. Don't expect this door to be open when you come back. She laughed. It was a genuine, mocking laugh. She looked around our apartment, the apartment I paid the rent for, filled with furniture I bought, the life I built for us. She looked at me, the guy who had never told her no, the guy who had always been there. She didn't believe me. She thought I was a permanent fixture. She thought she could pause me, go have her fun with the bad boy, and then hit play whenever she was ready to be safe again. Oh, please, she smirked. You aren't going to do anything. You love me too much. Stop trying to control me. She opened the door. Go ahead, I said softly. Find out. She shook her head, muttered, unbelievable, and walked out. The door clicked shut. I heard the lock engage. I stood there in the silence of the hallway for exactly 10 seconds. I waited to see if she would turn around. I waited to see if she would realize what she had just thrown away. I heard the elevator ding down the hall. She was gone. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a vase against the wall. I didn't text her. I looked at the clock. It was 6:45 p.m. Find out, I whispered to the empty room. I walked to the bedroom, pulled my suitcases out from the top of the closet, and then I grabbed hers. I wasn't just going to lock the door. I was going to erase her. As soon as the elevator doors slid shut down the hall, the silence in the apartment changed. It wasn't the lonely silence I used to dread when she was out late with friends. It was the silence of a library. Or a tomb. Clean. Heavy. Final. I didn't storm around. I didn't blast angry music. I moved with the cold, surgical precision of a coroner. I went into the bedroom and opened her side of the closet. I looked at the rows of clothes, many of which I'd bought, or we'd bought together on trips. I grabbed her suitcases, the expensive hard-shell ones she insisted we needed for her Instagram aesthetic at the airport, and unzipped them on the bed. I started packing. I didn't just throw things in. I folded them. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of claiming I damaged her property in a fit of rage. I wanted her to see that I had handled her exit with the same care I had handled her life. Thoroughly, and without her lifting a finger. First came the dresses. Then the shoes. I went into the bathroom and cleared off her side of the vanity. The expensive serums, the hair tools that tangled cords everywhere, the half-used bottles of perfume. I swept it all into a tote bag. As I packed, I realized something that made me stop for a moment, a pair of her heels in my hand. I looked around the room. Without her clutter, without her pile of clothes on the chair, without her makeup strewn across the dresser, the room looked exactly like my room. The art on the walls. Mine. The furniture? Mine. The electronics? Mine. She hadn't built a life with me. She had just camped out in mine. She was a squatter in my existence, consuming resources, occupying space, and providing excitement in exchange for stability. And now, she was out getting that excitement from the guy who broke her, while assuming the stability would be waiting for her when she was done. I went to the living room. I unplugged the Apple TV. I logged out of my Netflix, my Hulu, my Spotify on the TV. I changed the passwords on my phone. Then, I opened my laptop and logged into our internet provider. I changed the Wi-Fi password. Network name, app 4B new password. Find out 123, it was petty maybe, but it was a necessary severance. I wanted her phone to disconnect the second she walked into the building. I wanted the digital silence to hit her before I did. It took me 3 hours to pack her life into 4 suitcases and 3 boxes. I dragged them all to the entryway. I lined them up neatly right next to the front door. It looked like a hotel lobby. It looked like a departure gate. By 10 p.m., the apartment was scrubbed clean of her. I took the photo of us off the fridge, a picture from a vineyard trip where she looked happy, and I looked like I was just happy she was happy, and I dropped it into the trash can. I didn't tear it up. It wasn't worth the energy. I sat down on my leather armchair, the one she always said was too masculine, and poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon. And then I waited. I didn't check her location on her phone. I didn't text her asking when she'd be back. I just sat in the dark, watching the city lights through the window, feeling a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. It was relief. The anxiety of will she be happy today? Is she mad at me? Did I say the wrong thing? It was all gone. The tumor had been cut out. I was just waiting for the anesthesia to wear off. She didn't come back at 10 o'clock. Or 11 o'clock. Dinner implies a meal. A meal takes 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours if the conversation is deep. She came back at 12:45 a.m. I heard the heavy thud of the main building door downstairs, then the faint hum of the elevator. I stayed in the armchair. I hadn't turned on a single light in the apartment. The only illumination came from the street lamps outside, filtering through the sheer curtains. I heard the key scratch against the lock. She fumbled with it. She was clumsy. The door swung open, spilling harsh hallway light into the dim entryway. "Ugh, why is it so dark in here?" she announced, her voice too loud, too bright. It was the voice of someone pretending everything was normal, trying to bulldoze over reality with forced cheerfulness. She stepped inside and immediately tripped over the largest suitcase. "Ow, what the F?" She stumbled, catching herself on the wall. She kicked the bag. "What is all this crap by the door? Did you order something?" She flipped the light switch. The entryway flooded with light. She blinked, squinting. She looked down. She saw the familiar stickers on the hardshell luggage. She saw the tote bags with her toiletries peeking out. She saw the boxes. She froze. I stood up from the armchair. I walked slowly out of the shadows of the living room into the hallway light. "You're still up?" she said. The cheerfulness faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. "Why are my bags packed?" I didn't answer immediately. I walked closer to her. I stopped about 3 feet away. The smell hit me instantly. It wasn't subtle. It was a cloud. It was a mix of stale wine, sweat, and him. It was a sharp, musky cologne, something cheap and aggressive, like Axe mixed with desperation. It was on her clothes. It was in her hair. She looked disheveled. Her lipstick was worn off, except for a smudge at the corner of her mouth. Her hair, which had been perfectly sleek when she left, was frizzy and tangled at the nape of her neck. Her dress was wrinkled around the hips. She hadn't just gone to dinner. She had wallowed in him. "You smell like him, Maya," I said. My voice was flat. No emotion. Just a statement of fact. She flinched. Her hand went instinctively to her neck, covering a spot I hadn't even looked at yet. "Don't be disgusting. We went to a bar after dinner. It was crowded. People were smoking. A crowded bar on a Tuesday," I said, "where you stayed for 6 hours. "We had a lot to talk about," she snapped, the defensive anger rising instantly. "He was suicidal, OP. I had to talk him down. I was being a good friend. God, you are so paranoid. I come home, exhausted from emotional labor, and I find this?" She gestured wildly to the suitcases. "What is this? Are you trying to punish me?" She tried to step past the bags, further into the apartment. I stepped into her path. I didn't touch her. I just occupied the space. "You aren't coming in, Maya." She laughed. A nervous, high-pitched sound. "Excuse me? I live here." "Not anymore. Your name isn't on the lease. You never paid a dime of rent. And as of about 3 hours ago, you don't live here." Her face contorted. "You're kicking me out? Because I had dinner with an old friend? You're insane. This is abuse. You can't just throw me on the street at 1 in the morning. I warned you," I said calmly. "I told you exactly what would happen. I said if you walked out that door to prioritize him, the door wouldn't be open when you came back." "I thought you were bluffing," she screamed. "Because who does that? Who throws away a 3-year relationship over one dinner?" "You do," I replied. "You threw it away the second you put on that dress. You threw it away when you ignored my boundaries. And you definitely threw it away when you let him get close enough to leave his scent all over you." "We didn't do anything," she lied. She looked me right in the eye, the lie coming as easily as breathing. "We just talked. Nothing happened." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't care if they slept together or not. The betrayal was the choice. The act was just the detail. It doesn't matter, I said. She stared at the bags, panic finally setting in. She realized I wasn't fighting. I wasn't asking for an apology. I was executing a sentence. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked, her voice cracking, tears welling up. "My parents are in Florida. Jessica hates me right now. I have nowhere to go, Opie. You can't do this to me." "You have somewhere to go," I said. "Where?" I looked at the suitcases, then back at her. "You spent 6 hours with him. You prioritized his feelings. You wanted to see what he wanted." I reached past her, opened the front door, and held it wide. "I'm helping you move closer to what you want." She stood there, mouth open, the shock paralyzing her. "Leo," I clarified. "Go to Leo. If he needs you that much, surely he has a place for you to sleep." "He lives in a studio," she whispered, the reality crashing down on her. He can't take me in." "Not my problem," I said. I grabbed the handle of the nearest suitcase and rolled it out into the hallway. Then the next one. Then the boxes. I stacked them by the elevator. "Opie, please," she was crying now, grabbing my arm. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone. I'll block him. Just let me in. Let's talk about this in the morning." I gently removed her hand from my arm like it was a piece of lint. "There is no morning for us, Maya." I pointed to the hall. She looked at me, waiting for me to crack, waiting for the nice guy to surface and save her from the consequences of her own actions. She waited for me to cave. I didn't blink. She let out a sob of pure frustration and stomped into the hallway, grabbing her purse. "You are going to regret this. You're going to wake up tomorrow and realize you threw away the best thing that ever happened to you. And don't think you can come crawling back when you're lonely." "Goodbye, Maya," I said. I stepped back inside. I closed the door. I turned the deadbolt. I listened. I heard her banging on the door for about 5 minutes. I heard her screaming my name. Then, I heard her phone chime, probably noticing the Wi-Fi was gone. Then silence. Then the sound of suitcase wheels rolling toward the elevator. I walked back to the armchair, picked up my bourbon, and finished it. It was the best drink I'd ever had. I woke up the next morning at 7 a.m. without an alarm. The sunlight was hitting the floorboards where her shoe rack used to be. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't wake up wondering what mood she would be in. I didn't wake up walking on eggshells. I made coffee. I sat on the balcony. It was the most expensive cup of coffee I'd ever tasted because it cost me a 3-year relationship, but it was worth every penny. The fallout started around noon. First came the text from her. Blocks of text. "I can't believe you did this. I'm at a hotel. You need to send me money for the room. Pick up the phone, Opie. We need to talk like adults." I didn't read past the previews. Blocked. Then came the calls from unknown numbers. Sent to voicemail. Then came the flying monkeys, our mutual friends. Or rather, her friends that I had tolerated. Sarah called me at work. "Opie, Maya is hysterical. She says you kicked her out on the street in the middle of the night? That's really unsafe. You need to let her come get the rest of her stuff." "She has all her stuff," I said calmly. "And she wasn't on the street. She was with Leo. She told me he was the only one who understood her, so I assumed she'd be safest with him." "That's not the point," Sarah argued. "She's crying. She said she made a mistake. Just let her come home." "She is home," I said. "Wherever she chooses to be is her home. It just isn't here anymore." I blocked Sarah. I blocked the rest of them. I realized I didn't just need to break up with Maya. I needed to amputate the entire infected limb of our social circle. Over the next few months, my life underwent a quiet, aggressive upgrade. Without Maya's impulse spending, my savings account skyrocketed. I wasn't buying apology gifts or funding her aesthetic trips. I took that money and invested it in myself. I joined a high-end gym. I updated my wardrobe. I started consulting on the side. I felt like I had been driving with the parking brake on for years, and suddenly, I had released it. I was accelerating. Through the few genuine friends I kept, the grapevine eventually trickled news back to me about Maya. Karma didn't hit her like a lightning bolt. It hit her like a slow, suffocating fog. She had indeed gone to Leo's that night. And just like I predicted, the fantasy collided violently with reality. Leo wasn't a tortured soul who needed saving. He was a 34-year-old bartender who lived in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a serious substance abuse problem. The spark, She felt over text messages died the moment she had to share a bathroom with him. Within 2 weeks, the narrative shifted. She started posting vague, sad quotes on her Instagram stories, which I viewed from a burner account once, just to confirm, before never looking again. Quotes about narcissists and emotional vampires. She got fired from her job a month later. Apparently, she was bringing her drama to the office, crying in the break room, and missing deadlines. Leo kicked her out 6 weeks after she moved in. He found someone else, a 21-year-old college student who was less maintenance. Maya was left couch surfing. She had burned her bridge with me. She had alienated her parents years ago. She was floating, untethered, realizing that the boring stability I provided was actually the only thing holding her life together. She tried to email me around month 4. Subject: I miss my best friend. Body: I know I messed up. I was confused. Leo manipulated me. He used my vulnerability against me. I realize now that what we had was real. Can we please just get coffee? I just want to hear your voice. I moved the email to the trash. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel a desire for revenge. I felt nothing. She was like a character in a book I had finished reading. I knew the ending. I didn't need to reread the chapter. 8 months later, I was standing in the checkout line at a high-end organic grocery store, the kind of place Maya used to beg me to shop at, but we couldn't afford because she was spending our budget on clothes. Now I shop there weekly. I was wearing a tailored wool coat, listening to a podcast, checking emails on my phone. I felt good. I felt solid. Up. The voice was hesitant. Familiar, but thinner than I remembered. I turned around. It was Maya. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. The glamour was gone. She was wearing sweatpants that looked stained and an oversized hoodie. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, showing dark roots. She looked tired. Not just sleepy tired, but soul tired. Her skin looked dull. The vibrancy that used to define her was dimmed, like a light bulb running on low voltage. She was holding a basket with a frozen dinner and a bottle of cheap wine. I looked at my own basket. Steaks, asparagus, a good bottle of red. Ingredients for a meal I was going to cook for a woman I had been seeing for a month. A pediatrician who communicated clearly and had never once mentioned an ex. Hello, Maya, I said. My tone was polite, professional. The same tone I'd use with a bank teller. Her eyes widened. She was scanning me, taking in the coat, the fresh haircut, the general air of health and wealth radiating off me. She looked at my basket, then back at hers. The shame flushed her cheeks. You look incredible, she said quietly. I'm doing well, I said. How are you? I didn't ask because I cared. I asked because it was the social script. I've been better, she let out a forced, brittle laugh. It's been a rough year. Leo was, well, you were right. He was a monster. He stole money from me. He kicked me out. I nodded once. I'm aware. She stepped a little closer, encroaching on my personal space. She smelled like stale cigarette smoke and vanilla body spray. It was a cheap attempt to mask the scent of failure. I think about you all the time, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, her eyes filling with tears. I think about how good you were to me. I took it for granted. I know that now. I've grown so much, Opie. I've learned my lesson. She waited. She was waiting for me to say, I'm sorry you went through that. Or, I miss you too. She was waiting for the protector to step back in. I checked my watch. Growth is important, I said comfortably. Can we? She hesitated, biting her lip in that way that used to work on me 3 years ago. Can we maybe grab a drink? Just to catch up? I really need a friend right now. I feel so alone. I looked at her. I really looked at her. I saw the chaos. I saw the drain. I saw the woman who looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't enough because I was too safe. And I realized she didn't want me. She wanted the safety back. She wanted someone to fix the mess she had made of her life. No, I said. She flinched. No, I don't think that's a good idea, I said. I've moved on, Maya. Completely. But we were together for 3 years, she pleaded, her voice getting louder, heads turning in the line. You can't just erase that. Doesn't it mean anything to you that I'm suffering? That I'm sorry? I shifted my basket to my other hand. You aren't suffering because you lost me, I said, my voice low and steady. You're suffering because you bet on the wrong horse. You gambled our life on a fantasy, and you lost. That's not my burden to carry anymore. I made a mistake, she cried. I just wanted to see what he wanted. I didn't know he would ruin me. I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had won a game he didn't even want to play. You wanted excitement, Maya. You wanted the bad boy. You wanted the roller coaster because my love was too flat for you. I gestured to her basket, then to her disheveled state. It looks like you got exactly the life you were chasing. You're being cruel, she whispered, a tear finally spilling over. This isn't you. You're right, I said. The man who put up with your disrespect doesn't exist anymore. You killed him the night you walked out that door. The cashier beckoned me forward. Next, I stepped toward the register. Opie, please, she called out, desperation in her voice. Don't leave me like this. I have nothing. I put my groceries on the belt. I didn't look back at her. I pulled out my credit card, the platinum one. You have your freedom, Maya, I said over my shoulder. Enjoy it. I paid for my groceries. I walked out of the store into the crisp evening air. I got into my car, started the engine, and turned up the music. I didn't check the rearview mirror. She was just a stranger I used to know. And I had a dinner to cook. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.